Good afternoon and welcome everybody to our Aging Brain presentation today. For most of you, you know me, I'm Kathy Rosenberg. I'm the parish nurse at St. Matthew Lutheran Church in Columbia Heights. And I'm just so excited to have everyone together today and have the opportunity to provide a presentation entitled The Aging Brain. And I'm so happy to have Christina Grace and Christina Haig, our host and presenters today, to be able to provide this for us and to be able to share with the community. So thank you so much. I'll let them do their own introductions, but Christina Grace is from Chandler Place and St. Anthony Health, and Christina Haig is from Interim Healthcare. Home care and hospice. So thank you so much to the both of you for creating and presenting this presentation today. I'm just going to start us with a brief prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for just the opportunity to be able to present this today, Lord, information that we can learn and grow from. Thank you for all the blessings that you give us today and all the days ahead. Bless our time together with our speakers and each other, learning more about our brains that you've blessed us with. May we use this learning, Lord, to serve those that you place in our paths, and may you be glorified in the process. Thank you for your love that we get to share with others. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Christina. And Christina, I welcome you and ask you to begin. Thank you.
But if not, feel free to reach out. I'll put my email address and phone number on the chat. If you have any questions specific to Chandler Place or St. Anthony, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to be partnering with Christina Haig with Interim Home Care, and I'm going to turn it over to her to tell you a little bit about her company and what she does, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Yes, I echo everything Christina said about kudos to you for coming on here and learning to use this Zoom platform and pivoting in a time that needed pivoting. So kudos. I work for a Medicare certified home care and hospice agency. We are located out of Roseville. Interim Healthcare has been around for about 13 years with the current ownership. So we bring skilled services into the home, skilled nursing, PT, OT, speech therapy, and then we have a full hospice team as well. We've had to do some pivoting in the times of COVID right now too, and really are following communities and families lead as far as what disciplines they're feeling comfortable allowing into their home and what makes the most sense to keep seniors healthy and independent in their current settings. So happy to answer any questions you may have regarding home care or interim in general at the end. A few housekeeping pieces for you. If everybody wants to make sure that their computer is muted, sometimes halfway through these presentations, there gets to be some little feedback and makes everybody's ears hurt. So there's the little microphone button, on your screen. You're getting a sneak peek. So if you want to make sure your screen is muted, and then as Kathy mentioned, you can ask questions in the chat box. Both her and Christina are going to kind of moderate that and ask them when appropriate. And then I do have some handouts. I don't like to send this PowerPoint, and even when we do this in person, I don't tend to have copies of the PowerPoint because there's so much information that I would rather give you kind of a short form, bulleted information of kind of the top things that would really be great takeaways. So I have that electronically that I can send to you if you want to put your email in your chat, or just let Kathy know, she's also going to have a copy of those that she can send your way. So I think those are all the housekeeping pieces I have. I only had 1 cup of coffee this morning, so I hope I speak slowly enough for you. But if at any point you're feeling like things are going too quickly or you can't hear me, either speak up or just place a message in that chat box, okay?
Hey, Christina, just checking in. So we wanted to remind everybody too that we are recording this presentation so that if you want to watch it again or share with a friend. Kathy Rosenberg is recording this and we'll be sharing it through the parish. I don't know if it's the website or the communication, but
Yep, through the website.
okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. So we're going to talk about the aging brain, and I've kind of divvied this presentation out into maybe like 3 main bullet points, some objectives that I hope that you guys will take away. We're going to talk about normal versus not normal aging. We're going to talk about some reasons for not normal aging. And then the main reason that probably brought you all here today is what can you do to slow the progression of an aging brain? Or what can you tell your neighbor or friend about that? So let's get started. I'm going to start with some not so fun facts. So normal aging, our normal brain on any given day, at any given age, any given race, sex, gender, whatever it may be, the working memory peaks at the age of 25 and slows 0.5% to 1% each year thereafter. Our working memory can hold about 5 to 8 things. So as you can imagine, if our working memory peaks at age 25, we start to lose that percentage thereafter. As we age, multitasking and new learning can become fairly challenging for us. And then we have a decline in our strategic memory, and that helps with the memory of names and numbers. So those that have concerns about, I just met this person and I can't remember their name, you are not alone. And this is all a part of a normal aging brain, okay? It also, as we age, we tend to not be able to adapt to new learning as we once were. This comes into play, especially with technology, but you have all beat the odds with Zoom here. But we see this a lot with seniors who their family brings them a new cell phone. And they say, Mom, Dad, this is what we're going to use to get a hold of you. And their parents struggle with learning that. Well, this device is completely new to a lot of seniors. So the way that the aging brain has worked, it's just going to become increasingly difficult for one to be able to grasp new technology and learning something new like that. Oops. So we're going to start with a little memory test here. You are lucky enough, usually when I do this presentation in person, I only get to say the words, but you get to hear them and see them. So you're at an advantage. But I want you to remember these 5 words. You can say them out loud with me if you'd like. Otherwise, you can read them on the screen. Those words are 9, plugs, army, clock, and desk. I'll say them one more time for you. 9, plugs, army, clock, and desk. So this is just kind of a fun little thing for you guys to do. And then I want you to remember these 5 words. And as the presentation goes on, I'm going to ask you to remember these at the end, okay? No writing them down. Let's see if you can remember them top of mind. So as we talk about normal versus not normal aging, I'm kind of going to talk about it in these kind of 5 categories, because this is what we tend to see with somebody who we may have concerns about the way that they process information. So let's talk a little bit about name recognition. So normal aging, it would be normal for you to know a person, they look familiar to you, but you are unable to recall their name. It would be normal for you to remember what their name was given prompts. So let's say I run into somebody, I'm like, oh goodness, they look familiar. And they say, oh, I'm so-and-so's daughter. And I say, oh, that's right, you're Becky. They gave me a cue. I was able to process that information and come up with a name. That is normal aging. Not so normal aging would be, I'm so-and-so's daughter. We also went to church together. Our kids played soccer together. And it's like, nope, it's not ringing any bells, even with all of these cues. Or not so normal aging may also look like somebody coming up to me, hey, Christina, how are you? And I say, how do you know my name? Who are you? Have we met before? And not even having that recollection that we had crossed paths before. That would be not so normal aging. As we age, we like to use old information to lock in new information. So I like to use the example of Macy's. So Macy's has been lots and lots of different things, right? It's been Dayton's, Marshall Field's, and Macy's. So if I'm going to meet a friend at the mall, and we are both seniors, and I say, let's meet at Macy's. No, yeah, let's meet at Macy's. And they say, there's not a Macy's at the mall. There's that Dayton's at the end. And I say, yep, Dayton's has become the new Macy's. Oh, yes, that's right. They've changed their name. That would be normal aging. So we've used information from the past to help come together and remember information today. Not so normal aging would look like, no, that's not Dayton's, or that's not Macy's, that's Dayton's. No, that's always been Dayton's. And not quite being able to process that old information is now old and there's new information there. We also see this when somebody's moved into a new environment. So I go visit somebody in a senior community and they've lived there for 5 years. And I say, how long have you lived here? Oh, I just moved in a few weeks ago. That would be not so normal aging. We would be a little concerned about that because they aren't able to connect the old information with the new information. Word finding is another thing, and we hear this concern from seniors all the time, that they have trouble coming up with words. They're in conversation and they kind of get stuck on a word. What was I saying? Absolutely normal aging. Remember that working memory holds about 5 to 8 things at any given time. So it can become challenging to us if we have a lot of things going on, if we're also trying to remember something and we're mid-engagement in a conversation. So that is normal aging, to lose your train of thought, to become stuck on a word. It's not so normal aging when we start to forget those nouns. So a noun is a person, place, or thing. So I like to give this example when it comes to baking. So if you are in the kitchen and you have a partner with you and they're helping you cook, and you say, can you grab the stuff up in the cupboard, please, for the cookies? And they're like, what stuff are you needing? You know, the white stuff, that's sweet. If I can explain it and I can't quite come up with the word, normal aging. I'm talking about sugar, right? Can you grab the sugar? Not so normal aging would be, I need the stuff up in the cupboard. Can you explain what that is to me? The stuff that's up in the cupboard. I'm having a hard time finding those describing words to come up with the noun. That would be not so normal aging, okay? It would also be normal aging that somebody could help us problem solve through that. So if I say, I would like some of that stuff, and I'm pointing, or I want some of that hot drink, if I can explain it, that would be normal aging, okay? So if these things are happening to you, if you are kind of losing your train of thought, if you're getting stuck on a word, but somebody's able to give you cues or kind of talk you through it and you can come up with that word, normal aging, okay? Impulsive speech is another kind of big trigger when we think about not so normal aging. And if anybody has had a loved one or a friend suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia, they may have seen this. And that happens from the way that our brain ages and processes information. It kind of loses that filter, right? So normal aging, somebody who's in a comfortable environment with a friend may say, you get your hair cut? I don't really like it. They would know that that would be socially acceptable in front of good company to say that. Somebody with not so normal aging wouldn't necessarily have all of those things to filter through, and the information would just come out and could come across to hurt somebody's feelings, insensitive. So that's kind of, when it comes to impulsive speech, the difference between normal aging and not normal aging. That filter, depending in company, is not there. And so anyone who's been around somebody with Alzheimer's or dementia has seen this, and oftentimes it's probably hurt your feelings and caused some flags, but that's just something with not normal aging of the brain, that impulsive speech is just more highlighted. Using visual and auditory cues. So as we age, we've had lots and lots of years to understand what works for us. Am I a list maker? Do I need to repeat things? Do I need to leave myself post-it notes? What is it that helps me remember things? And you all probably have your own way of doing that. And it's using those auditory and visual cues to help be successful in your day-to-day is normal aging. We see this a lot with somebody with early Alzheimer's or dementia when their daughters or spouses are starting to see some different things and they're leaving post-it notes all over the house. And somebody with not normal aging, these post-it notes are irrelevant to them. They've seen it once, but they're not going to remember it. They may read it, but it's not going to stick throughout their day-to-day. And the things that maybe once work for them, writing a list, leaving a post-it note, are no longer relevant, and it's going to be challenging for them to remember it no matter what device they use. So if you find yourself using lists, if you find yourself having to write down your doctor's appointments in 5 different places, and you have post-it notes on your doors, and that works for you, normal aging. You are not alone, okay? The important things to highlight here, when we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's, it's important to understand that dementia is an umbrella term. And underneath that are all of these different types of dementias. Alzheimer's being one of them and making up 50 to 75% of the population, which is why we talk so much more about Alzheimer's. But there's also vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, front temporal dementia, there's alcohol and drug-induced dementia. So there's all sorts of dementias underneath this umbrella. Alzheimer's just happens to be one of them, okay? It's important to note that just because we start to see not so normal aging doesn't always mean that somebody has dementia. There is mild cognitive impairment, which presents itself like normal aging. However, it's a cognitive decline that limits somebody's ability to carry out their everyday tasks. So if you have ever been in a skilled nursing center or a rehab center, or perhaps even your clinic has done like a mini mental or a cognition test to see kind of where your baseline cognition is, it may have been identified that you have a mild cognitive impairment, but you're able to be functional in your environment, and that would present itself as normal aging. We would not be concerned about dementia. That decline would look much different. The other thing to note is hard of hearing. This is one I see most frequently, and even when I go visit my grandpa, I will say, "Grandpa, how are you? What a beautiful day outside." And he will say, "I had eggs for breakfast." And I don't think, uh-oh, Grandpa's starting to get Alzheimer's. I say, "Grandpa, you need to put in your hearing aids." So somebody who's hard of hearing can answer things inappropriately. You can kind of be a little like, what did they say? That's not even what we're talking about. But they just didn't understand, or they couldn't hear what was being said. Living with high stress can also just change the way that we process information and can make us think differently and act differently. I know when I was wedding planning, I took my car keys and tried to unlock my house door. And I wasn't thinking, uh-oh, is this early onset dementia? I started to think maybe I've got too much on my plate and I'm not processing information the way I should. So high stress can definitely cause us to be alarmed with the way we process information. Acute illness, somebody who has a urinary tract infection, coronavirus, I was reading a little bit about that and the way it affects brain health, that some people lose their sense of smell and taste are kind of like the first signs of coronavirus. So acute illness can change the way we process information and maybe give us cause for concern. But once we manage that illness, either through medications or if it's a virus over time, then our memory and our processing and cognition returns. Medications, either starting a new medication or withdrawal from a medication, can leave somebody to be thinking and processing information differently. So if that's you, if that's someone you know, and they've started on a medication or they've recently gone off a medication and you're just noticing some things just don't seem quite right, not necessarily dementia, could be the medication. And then pain, and pain can be the physical sense of pain, or it can be the psychological sense of pain. So we've all been through grief and loss, and going through that, you tend to not process information. It just, the way that it affects our body and the way that it affects our brains doesn't allow us to process information the way we once did. And once we manage that pain, either physical or psychological, we tend to start to think a little clearer. So I'm going to give you some things to watch for. Oops, I'm going to go back to this one. So either in yourself, in your friends, in your neighbors, these are just some kind of hot trigger things that if you're seeing this, it may be cause for concern to dig in a little deeper and have a greater conversation about some things that are going on. So getting lost in familiar places, repeating questioning. And the repeating of questions happens a lot, and I get that a lot from families saying, my mom keeps asking me the same question. And the thing that I would ask is she redirected? So, you know, my grandpa may tell me a story and 3 days later tell it to me again, and I'll say, oh, Grandpa, you already shared that with me. This is how the story ends. And he'll say, oh, that's right. I thought I was talking to your sister. So I was able to redirect him, and he was able to say, oh, yep, that's right. I remember. Somebody who continually repeats and you say, I think you told me this. And they say, no, this is new. This just happened. And they're not able to be redirected. That's when we start to get concerned. Odd or inappropriate behaviors. So that's kind of that filter piece that we talked about. But this can also be dress. So early, mid dementia diagnosis, somebody may have their winter coat and boots on in the middle of summer, or they may have, you know, shorts and a t-shirt on and think that's appropriate to wear outside in the winter. So that odd or inappropriate behavior can look a little different, and somebody who's around that person will know what that means.
Christina, is there a different screen that we should be on besides the umbrella dementia one? That's the one.
No, there's not.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing something wrong. Thanks. Sorry.
Forgetfulness of recent events. So working memory holds about 5 to 8 things. If you're making your list, if you're managing your calendar, if you're doing all those things that worked for you and we're still forgetting events, even with being prompted, that can be cause for concern. Personality changes. Somebody who is typically pleasant now seems to be a little more irritable, a little more agitated. That can be cause for concern. The other thing I was going to note is time of day. So somebody through a dementia diagnosis may not have that sense of time of day. So somebody who starts getting up in the middle of the night and taking a bath, or getting up in the middle of the night and starting to make breakfast or dinner, those are some things that can cause us to be concerned. Changes in diet and eating habits, changes in hygiene. Somebody no longer remembers when they last bathed, so we start to see changes in hygiene. Changes in language abilities, including comprehension. So this can look a little different. This can look like what we discussed about word finding. but this can also look like the inability to comprehend what you're saying. So let's stand up and go may mean I'm going to pick up this book and read. So when we start to see things like that, that can be some things for us to watch for and to start talking greater about. The other things that I like to point out, and I went to a conference a few, well, it feels like years, but I think it was last fall. And they talked a lot about why are so much of this dementia diagnosis missed? Why is it that, these people get to a point where they're leaving their homes and getting lost in the city, or get to the point that they crash their cars and family, is like, well, we thought dad was getting bad, but the doctor hasn't said anything. What's going on that we're not capturing some of this dementia-like behavior? And one of the big things is ageism. So a lot of times people such as yourself, your families, your physicians, they're just getting old. This is just what happens to the brain, when really not all aging is normal aging, as we just talked about, right? So there's some things that do cause concern, and it's important to talk about those things. Conversations with our doctors are usually problem focused. We go in and we talk about our knee hurts, or I don't like this medication, or why is this happening? And we don't necessarily talk about the way we think and the way we feel. So talking about those things are really important. Familiarity. So somebody who sees their doctor once a year, maybe they've had doctor changes, they aren't catching on to these little things that are changing as our brain ages, or we get really good at covering it up. So we say, oh, I missed my appointment, I got caught up doing this, I got busy doing that, and we can cover up the things even though ourselves are getting concerned about the way we think. And an important statistic that I thought was really interesting was that 45 out of 100 patients are never even told that they had a dementia diagnosis, but dementia was found upon autopsy. So it's a little less than half are even told that they have dementia, even though they were suffering through that. So very interesting. So let's talk about what you can do. So many things that we can do that are great for not only our brain health, but our heart health and our gut health. And you've probably heard them before, but let's talk about them. So exercise, combining aerobic and resistive exercise at moderate intensity for about 30 to 40 minutes has been reported to boost brain power in those over the age of 50. There was the Minnesota Center of Memory and Aging. It's a Health Partners affiliated program in St. Paul. They did a study with seniors, and they showed that 30 to 40 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise 3 times a day slowed the progression of normal aging.
And 3 times a day or 3 times a week?
3 times a week. Sorry, did I say a day?
You did, but okay. That's a lot. That's okay.
That is a lot. Well, we got nothing but time these days, right? So 30 to 40 minutes, 3 to 4 times a week. They defined moderate to vigorous exercise as being able to do the activity, but still being able to have a conversation. So you're a little short of breath, but you can still carry on a conversation, which I think is important to know. The other thing is intellectual stimulating activities. So board games, participating in conversations and educations like this, card games, book club, doing word searches, new learning. So learning a new task, whether that be yoga, learning to play an instrument, knitting, building a model car, learning how to use your cell phone or your computer, digital photography. The ideas are kind of endless and really can be anything. And the big thing is new learning. So what happens with new learning, it creates new pathways in our brain that can be rerouted and kind of allows our brains to blossom and lights up different parts of our brain that normally would kind of stay unlit through the normal aging process. So new learning is huge, and it can be as big or as small as you make it. So I challenge you to learn somebody's name. Need a new friend, learn their name. Once you learn their name and that becomes easy for you, try to remember their last name, try to remember their kids' names. So it can be as grandiose and as kind of day-to-day detailed as you make it. The University of Texas did a study of 200 seniors, and they had them all doing different activities. So some people were doing reminiscence groups, some people were puzzles, some were in a digital photography group, quilting, exercise. At the end of their study, they found, the group spent about 15 hours a week doing these different activities over the course of 3 months. They found at the end of the study that those that learned something new had the most significant improvements in their memory and their brain health than any of the other groups. Exercise came up second. So those that participated in exercise came second to having those improvements. They found that those that learned something new and exercised their brains for 45 minutes 3 times a week had improvements in their brain health for a year or more. So, new learning, stimulating activities. Word searches are really great for new learning. You have to find a word, intermix of letters that are scrambled. You have to remember the word, circle the word, move on to the next word while forgetting this word. So word searches are really great for building new pathways in our brain. I get the question about crossword puzzles. Crossword puzzles tend to reflect on old learning. So things that we had learned in the past that are filed away in our brain, still great, still stimulating our brain, but not as effective in creating new pathways, okay? Staying socially active, as we talked about, attending activities, eating meals with other people, all of these ideas obviously were much easier to do before COVID. So if I can get on one of my 2 soapboxes, it would be continue to stay engaged, find means to stay engaged, pivot with technology to stay engaged. So kudos to all of you for hopping on Zoom. Use your phones, talk with friends, FaceTime your family, FaceTime your friends. I I have asked numerous friends, I'll say, let's put our headphones in and go for a walk. I know you're in miles away and I'm miles away over here, but let's put our headphones in, we'll have our cell phones and let's go for a walk together. It's kind of 2 birds with 1 stone, right? We're able to get out and do some exercise, and then we're able to have some social engagement. So continue to stay socially engaged and have stimulating conversations is really important. Book clubs can be good for this, and even movie clubs too. Let's watch a movie together, and let's talk about it. So, you're able to take in the information, have to process it, and then kind of regurgitate it and talk about it, and comprehend it back to somebody can be really important. Healthy eating. So omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids are in the blood, and they are linked to excellent brain health. And we find these in a lot of fish and in a lot of nuts. So your soybeans, your salmons, flaxseed, walnuts, some of your white meats like your poultry, and even in eggs. So omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. There's also vitamin A, which has also been linked to excellent brain health. And vitamin A is found in kale, spinach, eggs, avocados, sweet corn, Brussels sprouts. There's kind of a saying out there that says, if God made it, you should eat it. Mm-hmm. Meaning the less processed it is, the less humans and factories have touched it, the better it is for your brains, and the better it is for your heart, and the better it is for your gut. So kind of keep that in mind. I also like the rule of one. So we all get busy in our day-to-day, and meal planning can become kind of a bear. So if you have one fresh fruit or vegetable, one fresh product on your plate, it could be a win. So start small, the rule of one, right? The other super important thing linked to brain health is sleeping. And if any of you have had children and have been through the newborn phase and remember how you felt getting such little sleep, you can remember how important it is to get good sleep, right? My daughter is coming up on a year and she still isn't sleeping through the night. And I can tell when she is how refreshed and how different my mind thinks, how clear things are when I get a good night's sleep versus when I don't. So if you have a sleep app machine, use it. If you have a BiPAP machine, use it. The lack there of oxygen, the deprivation of oxygen in our brain that happens when we have sleep apnea is irreplaceable. So you are not going to get that back. So it is very important that you use those devices so that your brain is getting oxygenation at night, that your brain is able to rest and recall the day's events to prepare you for the days ahead. So sleep is very important. That's my other soapbox. I will get some people that say, well, I have a hard time sleeping through the night. I have to go to the bathroom. These other things, there's a million reasons why. Some of those can be related to naps. So try to reduce your naps after 3 o'clock. Try and get your naps in before then. So then maybe that means you're going for a walk in the afternoon instead of watching TV. That can tend to make you drowsy and maybe drift you off to sleep. That's just some things that I've picked up on. The other important thing is hydration. So a lot of studies out there, and they show that we should be drinking, easy math is half our body weight in water. And on that note, I'm going to take a sip right now. Maybe we all should. There's a saying out there called, see a sip, take a sip.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Consuming half your body weight in water provides our cells enough fluid and plumpness to get carried throughout our body, to supply our brain, to keep our brain working the way that it should. The water market has come a long way. I'm drinking, a soda water, but it's ginger peach and it's delicious. But it doesn't have any added sugar. It doesn't have any juices or anything that could be detrimental. So there's lots of new ways in water if you don't like drinking just plain tap water. I encourage everybody to have a water bottle. So if you're going to go out and about, bring a water bottle with you. It's amazing how much you drink when you have it available to you. So I told you that was my last soapbox, but maybe hydration is my last soapbox. Half your body weight in water.
They're used to that one for me all the time.
Oh, good. Good. So we talked about some of those watch signs. We talked about the importance of early detection, and then you got to talk about it. So talking to your friends and neighbors, and there may be things that you're concerned about, like, gosh, I just can't seem to remember my doctor's appointments. And your friends will say, me too. And you know what worked for me? I started putting a reminder in my phone. And you may say, how do you do that? And they teach you how to do that. And that helps you moving forward. So talking about these things, using your peers as camaraderie. Don't be afraid to talk about the things that you're seeing as you think that you're processing information differently. Likely your friends and neighbors are going through it too. Talking about it with your family, letting your kids know, I'm seeing these things, this is what's happening to me, having an open conversation about it, and then bringing those things up to your doctor, because the earlier we can detect these changes, the more things we can do to prevent them from kind of snowballing. So know your watch signs, early detection, and then talking about it with friends, family, and your physicians. There has been, oh, the other thing I want to know is if you're seeing some of these changes in your friends or your neighbors and you're not quite sure how to bring it up, saying things like, are you seeing anything that's worrying you? Are there any changes or challenges you have with your health that's concerning to you? Or maybe talk about those things and how you feel. I'm really feeling like I'm having a hard time remembering things. How about you? And seeing if they have that self-awareness to talk about it. So starting those conversations, and we shouldn't be afraid to have those conversations. Every time I do this talk, I talk about how great it would be if somebody started a aging brain support group and how you could do different things that we talked about, learning a new task, doing a book club, some of those things to help reduce your risk of memory-related concerns, but then also just to talk about how you're processing, how you're thinking, laugh about some of the things that you've forgotten or that you've done, and just to have that camaraderie, I think would be great for everyone. Okay, the time has come for us to remember our 5 words. So maybe we want to take ourselves off mute.
You can all unmute yourself, but if I see you that you are not unmuted, I can unmute you for you.
Okay, can we remember those 5 words? What were they?
9 plugs,
Army.
army, clock,
Desk.
Desk.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, I'm going to read you a little memory recall game here, and I'm going to see if you guys know the answer, okay? I'm going to give you $100, and you go to the store and buy a dozen apples for $3 and a tricycle for $20. How much money did you spend?
My first response is 23.
Correct. How much do you have left?
77.
yeah,
Very good. Yep.
Can I pause for 1 second? There's a few people that aren't unmuted, so I guess I need someone's help to help me
Because I prefer to stay muted, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate it. Cheryl, do you want to be unmuted? Or Pat and Dwayne, do you want to be unmuted? I guess they can't tell me, can they?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
We usually also do another game, and actually I think we could probably do it with the folks that, I'm going to change my screen here so I can see everybody. Actually, I could even stop sharing my screen here too. And then everybody could see each other bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are unmuted and that I can see your name, I will call on you. And how we do this is it's a word association game, and it just kind of gets our brain thinking and challenges us a little bit. So for the sake of ease, I'm going to pick a topic, and the topic is going to be animals. And how that works is we'll go around, I will say your name, and you need to name an animal that starts with the last letter of the word before you.
Word, what word?
The word that was said before you. So if my animal is tiger and I call on Kathy, Kathy will need to come up with an animal that starts with the letter
R.
Correct. Okay, so I'll start. My animal is tiger. Kathy?
Gosh. Rabbit.
Good.
Very good.
Marilyn?
Oh, do I have to do the same one?
So you will pick an animal that starts with the last letter.
Oh, yeah.
of rabbit.
T. Okay. T, tiger.
Tiger. Sahari. Did I say that right?
Sarah.
Oh, okay.
Robin.
Robin. Carlton Moline.
Molin. And this is Florence, by the way. Only my name shows up there.
Okay. Carlton, you go. Sarah's word was Robin.
N. Huh.
That's a hard one.
N.
That is hard.
A nuthatch.
A nuthatch. Okay.
Wow. Good.
Very good.
And what your missus is Florence?
Yes.
Okay, Florence. Nuthatch to you, and I'm going to assume that nuthatch ends with an H.
Correct.
H. Well, I think of a hen. Chicken hen.
Okay. Hen to you, Ted.
Nat.
Gnat.
Oh, gnat.
Well, we could get logistic here because a gnat is spelled G-N-A-T, I think.
Oh, okay. How about, let's see. Nightingale.
Nightingale. Good one. Okay. I see Deb Davis and I see two lovely ladies on this screen. So why don't we go with Deb?
Okay, eagle.
Eagle. Good. Another E.
Elephant.
Elephant. Good. The other, I don't see a face, but I see cat. Are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, elephant to you.
Can we use the same one that's been done before?
Sure.
So tiger.
All right. And then I see a name as presentation that's unmuted.
So I have rat.
Rat. Very good. Good job, guys. So this would be another fun game that could be played in that like brain support group. And you can challenge yourselves. You can do it with a timer. You could do not repeating. There's several different ways you could do it. You can pick different categories. It's just a really fun way to engage your brain and get things firing that aren't necessarily fired day to day. And you can see how when it's not your turn, you're like, this game is easy. I know, I can think of 5 animals that start with a T. And then when it becomes your turn, you're like, oh no, what is it? What is it? What is it? So a great game to play. And there's lots out there. There's lots of books at Barnes & Noble, and I'm sure ones that you could get from the library about brain teasers and brain puzzles. There's Lumosity, which is an online game that does different brain games like this too. So if you like this, if you like challenging yourself in this way, there's lots of resources like that. What questions do you guys have? I'm gonna share my screen here just it has the last slide. But what questions do you have? Is there anything in the chat box? Is there anything off the top of your head?
There's one question that we would have is, have you seen any association with dementia and vision? Any deterioration of vision or anything like that?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about vision in regards to kind of normal aging and not so normal aging. So if everybody wants to put their hands out to the side, actually out, you can't see me, I'm big. But if you put your hands out to your side and you wiggle your fingers, can you see them with your peripheral vision?
Yes.
Okay, normal aging. Now bring them to the side of your face like this. And can you see your fingers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now bring them like binoculars. Somebody with dementia starts to see with binocular vision. So you could imagine that they would not be able to see their fingers out to the side like this. They would be seeing like this. And as they age and as the disease progresses, they see with monocular vision, which would be with 1. So we tend to see as the dementia progresses, we see a lot of falls. We see people running into things. We see people reaching across the table to eat food because they don't see what's in front of them. We see them tripping over things. So to answer your question, yes, but that's not to say that somebody who has macular degeneration is going to get Alzheimer's. Okay?
Okay, so
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Right.
We have someone in our family that has onset dementia and also cannot, well, barely can see at all. And there's been some question about whether those two are associated or whether the vision was caused by something else.
Yeah, likely unrelated, but dementia has exacerbated the visual problem
Mhm.
because of what happens with that binocular and monocular vision. Yep. So
and like she used to be, it's my sister, and she used to be, loved to garden. Well, when she first probably started having problems, she would think would see weeds, and she'd pull out the flowers instead, and this kind of thing. And she'd say to me, you know, she'd done this, and so I wanted to make sure she had her eyes tested to make sure nothing was, you know, wrong. And she did eventually, but now she's to the point, and they never really had a real good diagnosis of this. And she can hardly see now. So, you know, it's been tough because she and her husband, they just didn't, and they didn't want interference with how to deal with this. So it was a tough road.
yeah, there's lots of services through that are nonprofit through the state. One of them is services for the blind, I believe that it's called. It's a Minnesota Metropolitan Aging Service, I think. And they come out and will assess one's environment and provide them with free tools to help them be successful. So one of the big things is like a big numbered telephone. So it has the big numbers and it's a phone, a magnifying glass. I mean, various things that are free that are just, it's a state funded program that they can come out and assess their environment and provide those things.
Okay.
And I would say sooner than later.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
have her environment be assessed and get her set up for success sooner
Okay.
than later.
Okay.
So that as her memory fails, things aren't as foreign.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just mention quick, in our parish nurse group, we were able to attend that training. So I actually have the briefcase with all those free resources like check writing guides and the big clock and some glasses. So I've given several of those things out and I have more in my office. So if you know of anyone that's interested in maybe being able to utilize those, Florence or anyone at St. Matthew, let me know, because you know, they're sitting in my office and I've met with a few people and shared some of those.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really.
And
really
they'll
cool.
replenish your suitcase, Kathy.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's really cool. I've given several of the check writing forms away and.
Yeah, the great big
stuff like
lined
that.
notebook paper.
Yep.
Sounds good. Okay.
I have a question that came in of someone that's muted and I'm not able to unmute them. And it says, this came on my cell phone, do over-the-counter meds like Prevagen help with men more?
Yeah, so what I know about meds is pretty little, just because there isn't a whole lot of research that's being done, and the meds that have come on the market are really fairly new. But what I do know is that meds increase the memory chemical of the brain, but they do not slow down the progression of the brain, of what's actually happening in the brain. So they improve the chemical, which can give kind of a false reality that things are getting better. but really the brain is continuing to decline. Medications work about 40% of the time, and overall they've seen a plateau after 18 months. So somebody who's on some of these medications that improve that memory chemical will be doing really well, and then they tend to plateau at that 18 months and either are worse than when they started or kind of stay the same. And even when they've taken a hiatus from that med, they're not able to regain that. So it's kind of a Band-Aid and a short-term fix. I think that doctors will continue to prescribe it because it helps people be functional in their environment even for that much longer. But overall, it's not reducing what's happening in the brain. Good questions. What else do you guys have?
Well, I think it's interesting with these stimulating activities to know of different things that really would be helpful.
Yeah, it's just doing things that, you know, you wouldn't normally do that's going to challenge your brain and challenge the way you think, right?
Yes.
If you think about when you're on a weight loss program, and let's say you walk 2 miles every day, but you're on a weight loss program. Well, you can't continue to walk those 2 miles because your body is used to that, right? You're now going to need to walk 4 miles or 6 miles or 8 miles in order to get to the weight loss that you would like. So the same thing with our brain. We can't keep doing the same things and expect our brains to just adapt and get smarter or not decline. We have to challenge them a little bit in order to make those changes. So lots and lots of different ways to be able to do that. And it's just making it a priority to do so.
Yes, very good.
I was going to, this is Marilyn, what I was going to say that the last time I had a cognitive test, I have trouble with, I've always had trouble with numbers. And so I wanted them to take that in consideration, what my norm was, because I've never been good at memorizing, even a 10-digit phone number. 10 is hard, 9 I can do, but so I think it's important sometimes we share with the doctor what our norm is.
Yeah, and those cognitive tests are weighted differently. So they look at different things. They look at language, they look at numbers, they look at, like if you've ever done the clock, they look at kind of mirrored imaging and how you process that. So they look at a lot of different things. So it's not solely weighted on something that may be more challenging for somebody else. Thank goodness, because I'm a terrible mathematician. I worry about the day they ask me to do math at the doctor's office.
Exactly.
I see somebody ask something about learning a new language, and learning a new language is huge, which is why Spanish immersion schools have become such a explosion with children. Is they light up centers. Learning a new language lights up a center of the brain that is kind of untouched by anything else. So learning a new language is huge. But the biggest piece of that is retention and relevancy. So it's easy enough to hop on a website and learn some new words, but are you going to carry it through? Is it relevant to your day-to-day? And are you going to comprehend it and use it? Because that's really kind of the part that lights up that brain. You know, all of us can probably count to 10 in a different language. That's just something that's kind of been ingrained and stuck in there. But if we tried to count to 10 in another language and then use it in everyday life, it's going to challenge us in a different way, right?
Yeah,
Sign language would also be another great thing because you're incorporating fine motor and sometimes large motor, but you're using your motor skills in addition to your language skills. So, which is why baby sign language has also been a hot thing lately.
I was going to mention with those people that we know that do have dementia, and everyone here knows my mother has dementia. Like you said, Marilyn, to find out their baseline and not just what's challenging, but also what they're good at is important too. My mom's been a whiz at math
and numbers all her life. And same with spelling. So for her, some of the activities that she actually finds success in is like word finds and spelling and math, where, you know, she can't remember 5 minutes ago what anything was talked about or what was happening. So, you know, trying to embrace what people's strengths are as well as their weaknesses, I think is really important in how we help people through their aging brain challenges. Yep.
Right. And then incorporating something else challenging into that. So
Right.
is it a fine motor activity? Is it a gross motor
Mhm.
activity? You know, if she likes to spell, let's use our arms and spell our name and do that in standing. That's going to challenge somebody's balance. Do that in sitting. Do it with your ankle. Do it with your leg. There's just kind of lots of different things that you can do. And most of the time, physical therapists and occupational therapists and speech therapists are expert in that, and kind of getting people to think outside the box on how we can continue to use it and not lose it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is Marilyn again, and one thing I told my good friend years ago, I said, if there's ever a time that things are changing with my cognition and I'm not recognizing it, please be sure and talk to my family. And she's got the phone numbers because, you know, I want to make sure that they feel it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. And having those things in your healthcare directives and making those decisions about, you know, making those end of life decisions, even when you're of sound mind, and having those in your healthcare directives are really important too. And we actually have a whole education about healthcare directives, and it's not estate planning, but advanced care planning. If that's of interest to you, we can have another one of our social workers come on and talk a little bit about that too. So Kathy, if you think that would be a topic people would be interested in.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll let you know. A couple of us have been trained in the honoring choices and have presented that, but it's, it's really nice to have some other people present some of those things besides.
Yes, and hopefully everybody in the time of a pandemic took it as an opportunity to update their living wills and health take directives. Yeah.
Yes.
I also do that as an attorney.
Okay. Yeah. Very important. I don't know who said that. It was a mystery voice.
Yeah, that was Ted Landwehr. Yep.
Oh, hi Ted.
Hi.
Kathy, just a suggestion. It would be really valuable, I think, that you would make some kind of announcement, or in some way spread the word about recording this so that people could refer to it sometime in the future.
Yes, I definitely will. Once we get the details of it worked out and do that, I hope to have it on the church website, and then I would put something in the bulletin for those that were unable to attend to be able to have that. So yeah, I got to work with Pastor and Sarah and all our techie crew to figure that part out. So
Yeah.
Sarah's smiling. I see you. As I told someone today, it probably won't be up and ready today, but you know, by next week it probably will be. So we'll work it through, and we really appreciate Christina and Christina being able to allow us to do that, because that's really a great gift, knowing that this is all new for us to be able to have some health and wellness opportunities that I want to present to, you know, like I mentioned, not just St. Matthew, but to our community, and to be able to provide that blessing to others is great. So
it is. It's so excellent, really. Yeah.
Yes. No, this was great. Thank you, Kathy, for organizing. Thank you, Christina, for organizing.
Yeah.
Kudos to all of you for learning a new platform and wanting to challenge yourselves and learn something new. Hopefully you had a few takeaways.
Yeah.
I will get that handout over to Kathy so that if you would like it emailed to you, she will have a copy of it.
Yes, let me know.
Are there any other questions you guys have?
Well, I'd say this was excellent. Thank you. The information was so well
Yes.
presented, and you did really, really wonderful job, Christina. And Christina Grace, thank you for coordinating this with me. And this was fantastic. Is there anything else you want to share, Christina, from your end?
I don't think so. Thanks everybody for taking the time. This was kind of our first big go round with this as a Zoom
Mhm.
event. And I think it was wonderful and makes me excited to do some more.
Yes.
That's great. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone's patience. I have to admit I was a little nervous this morning, but I was fine. But I knew, praise the Lord, He's always there with us to guide us through the things that are brand new and challenging. It's a good time in our world to be pushing ourselves beyond our comfort zones. That's for sure, isn't it?
Never a doubt, Kathy.
Yes, yes. Praise the Lord. Thank you. Thank you all so much. At some point we'll stop recording. Should I do that now, Sarah? I will just say thank you to everybody for being here today, and please contact me if you have further questions or concerns, and also, of course, if you want to know more about Chandler Place and St. Anthony Health, as well as interim healthcare, home care, and hospice. What a great community partner we can continue to develop here. I think that's fantastic. I love to be able to meet people in the community and give us more resources as a congregation and community to work together. So thank you for that too.
Yes, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.